truth, lies, and political bullshit.
Yeah, and this is Tim with the Fifth Ward. Hey, let's just get right into it today.
All right, great, man. Welcome to Cohoes, the good, bad, and the ugly. So, what's going on in Cohoes these days? It's been a week since we talked, and a lot of stuff happens in a week in this city, right?
That's
Uh,
right.
so,
Hot topics going on is right now. The I'm being told by some people that work for the state elections commission that the a lot of people are getting moved around in their wards that have in which their wards have not changed. So we'll be posting a link and phone numbers for people to contact either the county or the state if you're going to vote someplace and your name is not on the list. Okay,
well,
because
that's exactly what we talked about, Timmy, right? So, the,
yeah,
the city goes and does this dark, secret, uh, redistricting
Jer-
process where
right,
the public is completely removed from their own process. Politicians could
yep,
care less. They don't even fight for their own residents. And the mayor of the city, with a guy from Albany, Jack McEnany, former assemblyman, and whoever else was secretly involved in this redistricting process. And what happens? They push through the redistricting process. Nobody knows what the fuck is going on with the redistricting process. They send it down to get the approval. And then what happens? Nobody even knows where they are when it's time to vote. They don't know where their polling places is. They don't know if they're supposed to vote on if they live on the island, but they moved them to the third ward. Do they go up to the school? Nobody knows nothing because you know why? It was a clusterfuck from the very beginning. It was a terrible process, and this is the price you pay.
yeah,
You pay the ultimate price. You don't. I don't. Because we're doing the show and we're staying on top of things. But if you're just the everyday guy who wants to go out and vote, you don't even know where the hell to vote no more because
that's
they
what
mix
happened.
things up so bad.
Yeah, and I'm being told it's a terrible mess. It's worse than what we think. So what they're trying to do is they're trying to pass this thing and toss it out real quick. It's really a mission impossible for the county because the county asked the state for help, and the state told them we're not helping. It's your mess. So
Yeah, it
now
is.
the county's got to do it.
It's the
And
camera's mess. It's the county's mess because the city
yeah,
screwed things up. The county's
that's
trying to deal with their own redistricting,
yeah, yeah.
right?
And now this happens.
Because the city has to get theirs done so the county can get theirs done. There's only so many people. Look at the state of New York. I don't give a shit what anybody says. Nobody wants you guys at all to even vote. They wish they
Yeah,
could stop people from voting. They don't want people to vote.
that's right. Yeah.
If people vote, then there's more chance that something can happen where they lose. I mean, it's just crazy. I don't know, Tim. I
Yeah.
find it to be the worst process in any state in America is New York State. They screw things up. They let locals screw things up. They don't want to fix the things then once they're screwed up. Cohoes is a great example. Nobody gave a shit. Nobody said a word. The local council people didn't care. The mayor was behind the secret process, and other people were behind the secret process. And that gets pushed through. And now nobody knows what the fuck they're supposed to do. They don't even know where they're supposed to vote. How sad is that in 2023 when you don't even know where you're supposed to vote in a city of 18,000 people?
Well, down on the island, okay, so pretty much if you live south of Bridge Avenue, okay, you've been thrust into the third ward now. Now, here's what Alicio did. Now, Alicio took $1,000 in donations, clips of 500 here and 500 from Kelman's. Then he votes and he dumps Kelman's from his ward into the third ward. Imagine they can't be too happy with it. They're going to find out they're going to have an entirely different representative down there. And that's just Kelman's alone. And then you've got all the people that live in waterside apartments down there. Okay, they're not going to know where to vote, and there's a lot of them are seniors.
Let me
Okay,
let me tell you something. Don't think for one second these sneaky bastards don't look at the voting records of people and
yeah,
say, "Hey, don't worry about moving that group. We only had like 3% of the people come out and vote in that
yeah,
facility, and don't worry about this one, and
yeah,
don't worry about that one," because they're not stupid, right? This wasn't
right,
a process that was done to improve voting in the city of Cohoes. This was a process which has been a subject of lawsuits for the last 30 fucking years about moving people out of districts so they can't run for political office. We are a small city. There was no need to ever redistrict, especially to take pieces of the island out of the way. People
Yeah.
didn't want certain people to run for office. So the
Yeah, and
only
this has
way,
happened. Yeah, and that's happened especially in the second ward. There was at least two or three people that were going to run against Don Russell, and now they've been moved out of that ward.
are you
Uh,
shocked? Surprise,
no,
surprise. Right?
no,
I
no.
told you straight up there was rumors going around that I was going to take and run for the council. I wanted to
Yeah,
probably get back into. I felt like I was robbed
yeah,
of all of the great things that we worked around the clock to do. I felt like I still had so much more to give, and that I didn't do anything that should have ever removed me for office. That I was a fucking hit job, right? So I
yeah,
did. I did think about, hey, should I try to run for a city council seat and try to rebuild my good name that's been destroyed? Or should I just run against this guy who's ruining everything that I built? And I talked about it to a few people, but it wasn't something that I said, I'm going to do this. How
yeah,
ironically, though, that little
yeah,
conversation got me moved into a whole different ward. I mean, it is not
yeah,
an
yeah,
accident by no
yeah,
means.
yeah, yeah. And it was only a small section up in your area that got moved as
Yeah, there's
well.
only
You know.
about 12 or 15 people that I think,
Right, right, right.
or
So
houses that got moved.
yeah,
I just happen to be one of them. I don't find it to be shocking. I find
yeah,
it to be everything that I despised, everything that I came out against, everything that I did as a politician pissed off the Democrats that I was
yeah,
part of. Because just because you're part of them doesn't mean you got to swim with them if they're swimming in the wrong fucking pool. I would always
yeah,
say that's wrong. This is wrong. Why aren't we helping this person? Why are we screwing this person? Why are you doing this? Why are you doing that? No, I don't want to be part of a system that tries to destroy the guy's life because he wants to run for a lousy council seat. I'm not involved in that. I'm not getting involved in it. And I became an outsider from the inside of my own party. That's the reality. So if anybody thinks that Democrats don't get fucked over by Democrats, all you got to do is be me. Believe me.
yeah. Yeah, and look at just yesterday, which was Monday. Okay, now I understand Gil Ethier does have a job as Democratic chair, but for him to come on out in February, this early in this process, okay, and have a vote by this Democratic committee, okay, whoever these people are, okay, to endorse a candidate at this point in time, and from what I understand, the meeting was to endorse Bill Keeler for mayor, okay? And he said he was going to run on his record. Well, I'm going to lay out what his record is on our next podcast, okay? But I think, in my opinion, but Gil doing that was putting his thumb on the scale and not letting the people decide the primary. And he's always told me it's up to the people to decide the primary. Well, that didn't happen yesterday, okay?
So you know, Tim, I had this conversation with you when I was running. I have a disagreement with that in the sense that I believe that the people of the city elect a committee people. Those committee people represent a small portion of each neighborhood, and they're supposed to go and bring their voice to these meetings, right? And I always said, what good is a political party if you're not going to stand behind the candidate that people want you to support? So I have a little different take on that. I get your point. I really do. And Gil has always said, I'm not getting involved in primaries. So if there's primaries, we'll let that play out and then we'll endorse. And I
Here's
always
the
used to say,
problem, though.
I
But
always
I
used,
will tell you this. I'll tell. I don't know who the representatives that even in the fifth ward here.
yeah,
Okay,
well,
I have
that's,
no. So that's the problem that I see. If there's someone out there supposed to be speaking on my behalf, who the hell is it? Because
well,
I
that's the
don't know.
problem. That's the problem.
Okay.
It becomes a paper tiger rather than it has.
Yeah.
There's an internal power to it because the person who's running it keeps getting elected because they appoint the people, right? Externally,
Right.
there's no power because the day that the Paul Thowens of the world, who used to go out there knocking doors, talk to
Yeah.
neighborhoods, get they would get the problems, bring those problems to the council members. The council members would bring the problems to the city. Those days are over. These are
Yeah.
not people that knock on your door and build relationships. These are politically appointed, and externally the party's weak. Internally, the leaders are strong within the paper tiger.
Well, it's a secret though. This whole Democratic committee is a secret. Nobody knows who they are except for these committee people.
I,
If you would ask the average person on the street, who is your ward representative as on the Democratic committee, they don't know.
It's sad if you ask the common people on the street who the vice president of the United States is, they don't know either because we really don't take our election process seriously. Seriously. You know what happens in small cities? Small cities, you get elected based on popularity. That's the reality. You
Yeah,
don't have to be anybody who has any kind of brains to bring to the table. You could be a plumber and they'll put you on something that's about economic development. No disregard to the plumber because I love him and I need him, but if he doesn't know anything about economic development, why do you put him there? It's popularity. And
yeah, yeah,
popularity is how you win as the mayor. Popularity is how you win as a council member. You're not always, and I don't want to be mean, but I'm going to be who I am. I'm going to say it how it is. Everybody who gets elected is not always the best person to be elected. I don't
yeah.
go to a
And
foot doctor and ask him to do heart surgery. Do you?
well, a lot of it is name recognition.
That's
You know
right.
that.
I do
It's
know that.
name recognition. They know who you are, what you do, and is this person a good guy, bad guy, or whatever. But a good example is Ed Kinner was invited. Okay, he announced for mayor. He was invited to go before the Democratic committee. He had a little talk, okay, with them. They greeted him nicely, and after his introduction here, not only a week passes by, and next thing you know, they're calling in the committee for a vote to endorse someone else. I mean, there might be other people that might be standing up to make a run. So I just think they got way ahead of the process way too soon. And I also merged that with the fact that I know that the county has got the whole thing screwed up is where people go to vote. So
Well,
I
the
think this
city's got it
election is
screwed
going to
up
be a
because the city
mess.
provides the information to the county.
Yeah.
And so whoever did the redistricting at the same time should have looked at the polling sites and said, okay,
Yep.
now these people got moved. This is where they have to go to vote. But
Yeah.
when you have a fucked up process that's run by people that don't know what they're doing, that don't really care about building the process for the right reasons, rather than just trying to keep people from voting, they're not even thinking about the second step, right? If you're doing it
Right.
the right way, you think about step A, B, C, D, and you submit a
Yeah.
package to the council and you say, this is our new package. But that's not
Yeah.
what they did. The council knew nothing about it. And you know what pisses me off? Not that they didn't know nothing about it, that they didn't care enough to fight, that they should have known
That's it.
about it.
Yeah.
And
That's true. That's
Alicio
true.
should lose in the island because he
Yeah.
split the island up and said he wasn't going to do it. And
Yeah.
and so let me just go into what I think some good stuff going on. Can I do that? If you want to
Yeah.
move on to some,
Knock yourself off.
here's what's the good stuff. There's people running against other people in the city government, and I always think that's good. Tommy Fife, firefighter. If
Yep.
I was there, he has to be 30 years as a firefighter. Great father, great guy, loves the city, always loved the city. He's a funny kid, but you know what? He was the president of the firefighters. He cares about that island. He lived there as long as I have. I
Yeah.
lived
He
on the
said
same
that.
street. He's just a fantastic guy, right? And if he
Yep.
tells you he's not going to do something, he won't go back and change his mind. He'll think about it. He'll listen. He'll get all the information. He'll draw his own conclusion. Then he'll submit to you what he believes is the right thing. That's all you can ask. You
Yes.
can't
I
be the
agree.
opposite way by going and saying, based on what I know, I'm not voting for it. And you knew no more the day you voted for it, and you
Yeah.
changed your mind after you told everybody. So I think
Yeah.
Tommy Fife has a great shot on Vince Guyton. I think that's a good thing, right?
Yeah, I do. And look at, I just looked at the timeline of what happened. I saw Alicio donate $150 to the Democratic Committee in September. Then he did it in early November. Again, another $150. 4 days later, he's got a fundraiser with all the political talking heads. Okay, four other council members. Okay, Canistrari, Gill, the mayor. So you know, and he's in this photo op with these guys here after he donated all this money. So, he to me in the image, it looked like, he was a little yes man. Okay. And he
Well,
turned out exactly what he is.
you know what? I like Alicio. I think he's a good guy. We used to talk a lot when he wanted to run. I thought he'd be a great candidate. I like him as a person. I love his wife. I think they're good people. But
Yeah.
sometimes good people get involved in something and they don't have the spirit that's necessary to be a strong individual voice, right? You kind of
Well,
fall in
right.
line, and that's
Yeah.
what happens. And
Look
and
at, Yeah, and I've known Justin since he was a boy. When he was 10 years old, he was on my little league team. I had him for 3 years. He was a catcher, good hitter, a great kid, and I have nothing personal against Justin. I think he's a great guy. I
Yeah.
just think that he dived into a political scene. Whoever talked him into getting into this mess, but I just believe he didn't know what he was getting into.
Well, here's the
Okay,
problem. Whether he knew it or he didn't, he got in, right?
yeah, he
I think
did.
he's a great kid. I hope he's
Yeah,
not mad at me. Hope we can
yeah,
stay friends. Again, I love him. I
yeah,
love his wife. I think they're great
yeah,
people. I think he's a shitty politician. You know why? Because he fell in line with all the other ones. And
yeah,
I've always said, if you fall in line, you're a shitty politician. Be an individual.
yeah,
Yeah, I know. Sometimes you got to take a beating. I get it. I've been there, done it,
yeah,
took the beating, but I'm never going to change my stripes. I used to say, I will always, for the good of the team, compromise my opinion, but I will never compromise my values.
yeah.
So in Albany County, when they were trying to close down the nursing home, and they wanted
Yeah.
everybody to fall in line, I went
Hmm.
against all of them. I said,
Yeah.
absolutely not. We are not going to hurt seniors who have no money, the oldest, poorest, sickest. We're going to fight for
Yeah.
them.
Yeah.
And, I made a lot of enemies. Even my
Yeah.
closest friend, Danny McCoy, was pissed off. But you know what? They ended up building a nursing home, and they called me up and said, if it was not for you, this
Yeah.
nursing home would have been closed.
My wife worked there. Okay. She put in 27 years, and if it wasn't for your fight, she wouldn't have a pension to this day.
And I got people calling me still that I haven't seen in 10 years saying if it wasn't for you, the nursing home would be closed because I
Yeah.
took on the establishment, my own establishment, because it was the right thing to do. And when I see people who are unwilling to take on their own establishment, they're elected for one thing, to be the voice of their people, not to fall in line and hang out with a bunch of politicians, right? Buddy,
Yeah.
buddy.
Yeah.
All
Yeah.
right. And when you tell people, please don't cut my island in a quarter, please don't take that piece out. We are
Yeah.
our own little community. Don't destroy it.
They did.
And
Yeah.
you go and say I won't and vote that you will. I'm sorry. I don't think you're. I think you're a politician. I don't think you're a good advocate for the people. And
Well,
and and
right.
so Tommy
And
Fife will be a great advocate.
yeah, and the island is unique in a lot of its own ways. I mean, it's the only place in the city of Cohoes where you have a golf course. The island pond where the kids like to go fish. Okay, it's the only place in the city where you can actually go fishing safely. We don't really have much access to the waterfront. You can fish up by the falls. Okay, there is a little area there, but it's the atmosphere, the scenery, and everything like that. Is down on the island is really the place to go,
If
and
and if you're not, if you know,
and they're gonna have that winter carnival here in another few
yeah,
days,
I'm gonna
but the
swim in
kids
it.
won't be able to. Yeah, the kids can't skate because of the warm weather.
God, Tim, listen, I'm glad to see Tommy Fife's running. I think
Yeah.
he's got a good
Well, I
job.
sent
I
him a message to see if we can't get him to come on the podcast and
maybe he
let
will.
him, and have him put out his views. I'd like to hear from him,
Ed
and I'm
Kenner,
sure
I
the
think he's a
yeah,
great guy. He's got an uphill battle, but I'd
yep,
love him to come on. He said he'd come on. We can talk
yeah,
about the city and what his view is on the city,
yeah,
and stick to the facts. I said to him, stick to the facts. He's got an
yeah,
uphill battle because he's not very well known, right?
yeah,
And you got Keeler, who has got all of the. See, here's the problem, right? Again,
yeah.
Keeler's got a well known name. He was the state trooper guy, but he's also got a shitty record.
He does.
And so when I read the newspaper when he launched his second bid here, his he's going to
Yeah,
run for, and he talked about his promise was to fix economic development. I wanted to fucking throw up. I mean, I took
yeah,
a city that's been dead for 40 years, turned it into a city that was
yeah,
booming. Not only was
yeah,
it booming, for the first time, the Times Union, we got rated as one of the top 3 cities in the capital region. Our music
yeah,
hall was #1. Our restaurants were in the 2 and 3 and 4s. We had new sidewalks, new streetscape, new lights, new parks. We built the park up in for the veterans. We got the flag program going up. We did so many things that Cohoes was the talk of the town everywhere. We were in
yeah,
magazines. We were flourishing, right?
yeah,
What do
yeah,
you
yeah,
mean he's going to come in and fix economic development? He brings in a bum who doesn't know anything about economic
yeah,
development. 6 or
yeah,
7 businesses has closed since he's been here.
yeah,
The streets are dirty. He's
yeah,
done nothing. He walks around
yeah,
with his fucking head looking at his feet. You can't talk to him. The employees hate him. He retaliates and tries to hurt people. And this guy
yeah,
is the grand poobah. I'm
Yeah, and
sorry, but he's got a shitty record and he's not a good man when it comes to taking care of the city or the employees, period.
well, right. And look at it. He's vindictive. It's well known throughout the city with the city employees. And Hennessy, DPW commit is just as bad. Very vindictive guy. What he does to many of the employees. And I know that there's been complaints put before the ethics board by both of them, on both of them, that is. And we'll see if the ethics board does anything about
Tim,
it.
you know the
Okay.
ethics board as well as I do, right?
Yeah, I do.
I mean, I've never been in front of it. I've been sent to it.
They, well, they're there as the guardians of the people, but they do the opposite.
Listen, I'm going to tell you something. Name the people on that ethics board. You got Charlie
Well,
Valeni.
Charlie Valeni, you got David
You got
Emanation, who
David
I think is a great
Emanation,
he's a great guy. I know David
one of the best
well.
men, most caring, loving
Yeah,
people that I have ever met.
David's a good guy. I've known him since I was 14 years old.
Yep.
Okay,
And
and
he's
you
the
got
kind of guy that belongs on that thing. But you
yeah,
know
he
who
does.
doesn't belong on it?
Charlie
Charlie
Valeni,
Valeni. Charlie
right?
Valeni will dress up in his costume and go to church and serve
Yeah,
the parishioners of the church and act like
yeah,
he's one of those saints. But you know
yeah.
what? He's just another one of those lifelong bureaucrats.
He is.
John McDonald fired him and then threw him a retirement party and act like he was the greatest guy in the world.
Yeah,
It's time for people of yesteryear to move on.
yeah.
When
Well,
well,
and the other person, by the way, before I forget, is Debbie Gilchrist. And look, she sits down, she takes notes. I think she's tries to be as thorough as she can. But when I walk out of an ethics board um, hearing, and I've done it a lot, okay, um, I can't get a sense of where I feel. Okay, you can't get a sense of which way they would lean
well,
towards an issue.
99.9% you can, right?
Yeah, I would say I'm never optimistic,
There's
and
two things. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
yeah, and and there's been a hearing recently, okay, on a few people there, and I walked out of the room and I said, well, that went well, but I'm not optimistic, okay.
Well, here, you want to put that board in perspective? Charlie Valeni, I still think, was the president of the board. Keeler, the mayor, sat on
Yeah,
the board. And there was a time when Kenny Radcliffe got a phone call, and he's always willing to help. I'm sure that he ran it by
yeah,
somebody who pretended that he never did because they didn't want to get the shit kicked out of them because
yeah,
shit rolls downhill. And he
yeah.
went and used city equipment on, I think, like a Knights of Columbus. I don't exactly know,
No,
but
it was a hotel in Colony.
whatever it was, he was asked if they could borrow a piece of equipment. Wrong from the very beginning. I get it, but he's an
Yeah,
employee, and I
yeah,
worked with Kenny. Kenny worked for me. The man
yeah,
does not do anything without asking. So
uh,
I know whoever he asked told him to go ahead, and then when they got the shit kicked out of him, that guy disappeared. Probably John McDonald, I would assume, cowardly
yeah,
fuck that he is. But anyway, um, they went after Kenny for using that equipment and the manpower on private property.
yeah.
Correct?
Exactly. Yeah,
And then the same guy who ruled that it was a violation and they made the recommendation and Kenny got suspended. The same guy, his name is Bill Keeler, who had
yeah, he was the
DPW.
chairman. He
He
was
was
the
the chairman.
chairman of the ethics board.
And he had DPW do the same exact thing on his house, on his property. I don't give a
Yes.
shit what anybody says. They were up there working, grading, dumping, grading, dumping, grading. That's not
Yeah.
dumping dirt. We've dumped
Yeah.
dirt on other people's property before and then drove away. We never graded their
Yeah.
property.
And I will
And
add to
and
this, okay, is that when he was the chairman, Charlie Valeni, okay, was a member of that body, and so was Debbie Gilchrist, and
exactly.
an alternate was David Emanation.
And they
So
ruled that it was okay
it
for
was
Keeler,
okay,
but it was
okay
not
for
okay for Kenny Radcliffe. That's the
exactly what happened.
phonies. That's the
Yeah.
phonies. That's why Charlie Valeni shouldn't be there. I love
Yeah.
Dave Emanation. Put him in
Yeah.
charge. You know
Yeah.
why? You're going to get the truth whether you like it or not. He's going
Yeah.
to make a decision based
Right.
on what he thinks is right and wrong. He's a
Right.
moral compass. I think the guy is
Yeah.
fantastic. Charlie Valeni, I think, is a nice man. I think he means well, but he's
Yeah.
easily led like a sheep around the
Yeah.
around the whole issue all the time. And 99.9% of the time, they don't make a ruling based on the reality.
Yeah, you know, I've always said, look, if they're supposed to be scrutinizing the government, you know, they're supposed to be taking care of the people, make sure we have honest government, and that's not what's happening with the ethics board. And I have very, very little faith that they will do what they are supposed to be doing here.
Yeah, because they
So
get too much pressure. I mean,
yeah,
I don't.
look,
Again, it
I
should
went
be.
into a hearing just recently, right? Charlie Valenti already had documents in his hand before the hearing even took place because he's already started on his own doing whatever he wanted to do. Okay. He should not have been involved in the process other than waiting to see what was presented to him and then act after that, but not ahead of time.
No, the man should have let you come, air out
Yep.
your grievances, do their
That,
investigation, gather their information, get their facts, and then make a decision. What they do is they
yeah.
find out what you're going to go in front of them for, run back to the people and say, "Hey, Timmy Thibodeau filed a complaint. Give me everything. Help me, help me, help me,
Yeah.
help me, help me." And then they beat you to the punch and go, "Oh, that's not what happened. We already talked to. Well, how'd you talk to anybody before I told you what my complaint was in front of the commission?" And again,
Yeah.
these things are supposed to be set up like this, Tim. The city council should have made the appointments
Yeah.
for the first one. Somebody's got to appoint the
Right.
first one.
Right.
And
Right.
then
Right. You
after
got,
that, they should appoint their own people.
yeah, they shouldn't.
They're an
Yeah.
advisory commission. It isn't like that they can come and, take your house away, right?
No,
So
they
let
have
them,
no authority there. None.
right. So let them put the people on that they want after you make and create the board. Make sure those people are not people. There should be some oversight, but not oversight like they have now, which is we appoint every couple of years our own people,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's
and
what's happening.
get people on there who are going to do the right thing. Look at if you would think that if you're an elected official and you do something wrong, you want the government body, the governing body, the ethics to come and say, "Hey, listen, we're not saying that you intentionally did anything wrong. We're saying that you made a choice to do A and it doesn't fit within the puzzle, so you can't do it again." Everything they do or everything you do isn't like a crime. They shouldn't be an
Yeah,
attack dog. They should be a
right.
watchdog,
Well,
right?
most of the yeah, right, most of the city employees, they don't know that if you have a question, anything that might be controversial, the ethics board, you can go to them and submit a paper asking for an advisory opinion. They don't know that they can do this, and whose job is it to let them know and to school them and train them? It's the mayor's job, according to the paperwork. Okay,
Well, here,
it's
would you work for this guy and go in front of any board to turn these people in? These are the most vindictive people that I've ever met. I know
yeah,
people who have been suspended for months, over a
yeah,
month, for the most
yeah.
fucking ridiculous thing in the world.
Yeah,
Okay?
yeah.
I know
Look,
that
if
they
they,
threaten people all the time.
yeah,
If
they,
if they don't
yep.
like you, they come after you. This guy is mean. He's a
They
mean
pulled the
spirited man.
right. They Hennessy pulled the cable TV out of the water plant, but it's okay for it to be down at DPW. It's okay for it to be at the firehouses. So he just goes after take away and punish people because he can, and it's
And
wrong the way he does it.
I
Look at
was
that. I want
told,
to touch on something though,
yeah,
real
go ahead.
quick. Okay, on that ethics board. Okay, when you have the DBW commissioner, there's a complaint in against him. Two eyewitnesses went to the hearing. They spoke to that ethics board. So you had three people in the ethics board. And what does Hennessy get to do? He gets to send a text to Charlie Valenti and simply denying the allegations. I asked Charlie, is Charlie, how is it that he got your phone number?
Yeah,
Charlie goes,
there's a
well, he
conflict
go
there, right?
right, right. He goes, well, I called him and he called me back. I says, that's not what it says. It says that he sent you a text denying it. So then I said, look, the weight has to go to the two eyewitnesses. Okay, so what happened? You got a text and you went and told Debbie and David, this is what happened, and then these two agree with you and ignore two eyewitnesses? That's what I see as part of the problem, too.
Yeah, Charlie Valenti has got to go. Again, he's not a bad man. He's actually a good man. He's a spiritual man, right?
He's a good man
He dedicated his life to the city.
yeah,
He's
yep.
also dedicated his life to the church. He wants to be a good man. And you know what happens when you're too good of a man? You
Well,
don't
he's
want
not suited,
conflict. You
right,
don't
and he's
want
not suited
conflict.
for this job.
Right.
You
And
know?
and 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 if you don't want conflict in your life, get out of a position that is going to cause conflict.
Yeah,
Because if you do it right, sometimes the
yeah,
people who are in power are the ones you're going to have to say, no, 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 not so fast, my friend. You guys
yeah,
fucked up.
yeah,
But he
and
won't do that because he doesn't
right,
want conflict. So a good
right.
man.
He's a good man in the wrong spot.
That's right. And I'll tell you
You
something. If
know?
I could vote for anybody, I'd put Dave Animation on the top because he's just a
Yeah,
fantastic,
yeah,
good-hearted
yeah,
guy who would do
yeah,
the right thing. When he, I used to go to the neighborhood watch, and he was in charge of the budget, and he'd come up with a board, and he would break it down. He
yeah,
would break it down to every single penny,
yeah,
and
yeah,
he'd
yeah,
make sure if there was any questions, and he'd want to explain everything because he didn't
yeah,
want them to say I took a $5 check and put it in the wrong account, so send the FBI after me like you did for
yeah.
Moore's for $500, right?
You know,
He's
yeah.
a
And
good man.
David is smart. He asks pretty smart questions, and typically, Debbie will ask questions, David will ask questions, and Charlie will say, "Are you done yet? Are you done yet?"
Yeah, because
You know,
he's too
he's
busy.
in a hurry to go somewhere else.
He's
He
got to
even
run
said,
back to tell the boss what's happening.
"Yeah, yeah, exactly, okay." And what he has done in the past here is, um, what troubles me is that it seems like a decision is predetermined before you go in and even have your hearing. Like if
So
you can get by Charlie, then you got a chance of getting some justice done. But
yeah,
the
well,
hurdle is getting by Charlie.
yeah, getting by Charlie, who's in charge, and you know what? Again,
Yeah, yeah,
David, the respectful people, so they give respect to the guy who's the chairman. He's the longest guy.
yeah,
Timmy, look, I'll just tell you now, these are paper tigers. All of
yeah,
these boards, even when I was in the county, none of them really have any value other than perception, right? The reality is they don't really do anything. The perception is that there's some kind
yeah,
of watchdog. So
yeah,
I want to talk about something else if I could, Tim.
yeah. Go ahead, jump in.
So, our good friend Steve Napier, who's the head of economic development, who's supposedly done such a great fucking job, but everything I look at's closing down. And another restaurant just who was on Ontario Street, they're leaving to go to Waterville because they're more business friendly. You know, they
Y-
do
y-
things to draw people. You know,
Yep,
remember
Tita Marie's. They're
yeah,
moving.
remember I used to say to you that the people who continue to do the same thing over and over and over, and that's why Cohoes couldn't get ahead. And my idea
Yeah,
was we had to turn it into something different. We had to
yeah,
bring people to our city,
yeah,
otherwise businesses can't survive. Right? You can't
yeah,
survive with 5, 6, 7 bars and restaurants with 16,000 people, and only a fraction of them go out. Right? You
yeah,
need to
yeah,
draw people to the city. So other cities have caught on, and they're starting to engage in those type of actions. And so you have another business packing up and leaving. So when the city goes to the newspaper and said our businesses are thriving,
yeah,
it's a clear example that they don't go down to any of the businesses. But Steve Napier, when he was on the city council, we had a guy named Mike Jacobson. Let me give you a quick breakdown of Mike Jacobson. He was the vice president, one of the vice presidents of
yeah,
American Express, right?
yep,
Go figure out how many people you're going to meet in your life that were vice presidents of one of the biggest companies in the world. He was the
yeah,
vice president. He oversaw 250,000 people.
yeah, yeah.
Okay,
I
we
bet.
we got 300 employees. He oversees 250,000 of them. He was a guru of economic development.
Yeah,
He actually brought back Habitat for Humanity that was dying in this area and turned it into one of the most thriving chapters in economic development and building houses for the people who really needed a helping hand. So when he was here in the city and I hired him, and he came to the city not because he needed a job. I think he gave away the money. He came because he once moved to the lofts, came downtown and said, "Holy fuck, this is a shithole." So when he
yeah,
had an opportunity to do what he does best, which is help build things, and me and him had what it took, right? He knew how to put the pieces together. I know how to bring the pieces to him. I could get the people to come. I could give him the ideas. He could craft them and make them into the success. And we clashed a lot, but we agreed to a lot. And I think the city was never better than when we were working on it as a team.
yeah, yeah.
But
That's true.
but Steve Napier, who knew shit, knew nothing, and I always thought he was a wise guy, and I still think he's a wise guy. He would say to Mike Jacobson, "Well, the charter says that you need to have a quarterly report and come before the council and present us with your quarterly report so that we can review it and read it, and we knew what was going on, and we could, give you our opinions. Like the fucking guy who built the shit shack should give an opinion on economic development in the city, right?
Yeah.
But part of that was true. It wasn't so that they could give him any kind of feedback, which we were always open for feedback. The more people that have ideas, the better. But that wasn't the purpose. The purpose was to go in front of the council, give them a report, let them see all of the good things that were happening so they could share that with their perspective of residents, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so he would start a fight with Mike Jacobson through me. I shouldn't say he'd start a fight because he's a coward, but he would go to a meeting and say it publicly. They're not providing us with the report. And I used to say, well, ask him and he'll have a report.
Yeah.
So I said to Mike, listen, let's get these reports, put down everything that we did, put them in writing, give everybody a copy. They'll all have them. And we're following the charter. We're doing the right thing, even though it used to piss me off because I knew these guys could care less. They probably threw it in the fucking garbage, right?
Well, and
Now roll fast forward. Steve
yeah,
Napier is now sitting in Mike Jacobs' spot,
yes.
unfortunately. But he couldn't carry his jockstrap, right? Because this guy was a whiz and this other kid knows nothing about economic development.
Right.
Nothing,
Nothing.
right?
Now,
So now it's his turn to give a
right.
report. Tell us a little
And
bit about that report.
okay, so what's he do? He shows up at a council meeting and he's got a little 3x5 card, okay? And all the hours like 4 lines of topics. One was the holiday market, his disaster. Another one was about the fired out area down on Remsen Street, where the power tank is, an update on that with the eye. So anyway, he goes up there and he talks to the common council and he gives them a verbal report. So I said, well, where's the paperwork? Where are the actual reports that he's referring to? So I emailed the city clerk and I said, hey, I want to foil the card that he had in his hand. So she gets a copy of the card, and I got a copy of the card. I think I sent it to you. We could post it later on, Steve Napier's report. So I said, well, that's his talking points. Where's the actual report about the holiday market? Okay, his shit shacks, and I said, I there. So Loriando, city clerk, sends him a message and say, hey, Steve, Tim's looking for the actual report. Okay, not just you know what you told the council, but the actual report, statistics, data, and what's he said? Well, there is no report. I don't really. So how can he give a report without a report? I had that report 2 weeks before he did because I foiled it from the CEO, Debbie Jakes, who's the CEO of CLDC. She sent me the report. That's why I knew that we only profited $1,250 and we lost $25,000. And Napier didn't want to tell the council
There you
that
go. Bingo. There
he
you go.
didn't want to tell the council on that one area in the report that they suffered a $25,000 loss on his watch.
So here's
And
the
that's one
economic
of them.
This is the
Yeah.
economic development director, who's
Yeah.
also the secretary for the LDC, right?
Right. And he can't get the report.
And he doesn't want to bring the report to the council and publicly say, "Hey, I'm a fucking moron, and I built these shit shacks, and we couldn't sell any of them, and it was a flop, and I really did a terrible job, like I've done with everything else." He
Yeah.
pretended that he gave them some kind of quick synopsis of what happened, but certainly didn't want them to know how much money he lost and how poorly of a job he's done, because the
Yeah.
guy is over his head. He doesn't belong in that position. He's never had a job that I know of. I think he owned his own political consultant business called
Yeah.
Southpaw, right? And all he
Southpaw.
really did
Yeah.
was write flyers and that kind of shit and help
Yeah.
people run campaigns. He was a
Yeah.
political animal. He has no skills. There's not
Yeah.
an economic development director in the country, and I'll stand corrected, but I'll go
Yeah.
out and find every one of them that doesn't have some kind of major experience, degree, education, life experience in economic development sitting in those seats, other than in Cohoes, New York, where you get the seats if you run for politics and they want you to get out. And so the two guys, Mayor Keeler and him, get together and he goes, I'll give you a job if you get out. That's the guy who said the Morris Friends and Family Show. I never hired one person from my family, and I didn't have anybody that I hired that were my friends, people I
Right.
knew because I've been here my whole life. He's got his daughter who he gave a big job to. He's got a relative who's a judge. He's got Napier, who became his buddy, gave a job so that he wouldn't run. They were going to give Randy a job, but Randy didn't want to be the head of recreation. The guy is become a
Yeah.
political animal, and he knows more about being dirty than anybody.
Well,
Look,
he is. Look at. Did you ever get a Napier for mayor or Napier for Fifth Ward pizza cutter?
no, no.
I got one plus his grandmother's pizza sauce recipe. That's what he did. I mean, so look at the guy is does he does political campaign stuff. Okay, handing out pizza cutters. He does drawings, raffles, events like that. You know, eat in the street,
Look, and
and
I know hundreds and hundreds of people watch our show. I see
yeah,
the numbers.
yeah,
15, they don't all see it on YouTube, but 15, 2,000,
yeah,
3,000, 4,000, 5,000. One time we had over 6,000 people from all different
yeah,
genres, whether it was on Facebook or whether it was on YouTube or Apple, wherever
yeah,
not every one of them has video, but they all have audio. People are watching and listening. I want people to do me a favor. Send us a message. Tell us, is the city better today than it was 3 years ago? Do you believe that economic development is better today than it was 3 years ago? Do you think the city's cleaner than it was 3 years ago? Do you think the people are happier? Do you think just because you haven't paid taxes? First of all, they raised taxes as soon as I left. He had Chris Briggs do it, right?
yeah,
The
yeah.
second
Briggs
the
did it.
second year he ran a deficit and they used money out of the savings account to cover the cost. The
Yeah,
third year COVID came and the president of the United States, who doesn't even know he's the president, gives us $3 million. So of course, for a long time you could fuck things up with $3 million, believe me, because nobody will see it because you could cover it up with money that nobody really knows that you even have. So the
yeah,
fact that they haven't raised taxes doesn't mean they're doing a great job. The reality is the city is not better. The city is in poor shape, both from a economic standpoint and from a beautification standpoint and from a progressive standpoint of moving forward to a new 2023. And I think people, I'd love to hear what you have to say because if you think it's better, maybe it's just me and Timmy that are blinded with our four eyes. But maybe I look at the city like a cyclops, like I got one eye in my forehead. But I live here, I see it. I walk down the street, I see garbage, I see businesses closing. You know what? I've been here my whole life. I go out, have a beer. Somebody says, "Man, Sean, I can't believe how far the city's fallen," and every other city's starting to boom. And if you believe we're better or we're worse, send us a message. Send it
well,
to you can send it right on Facebook. Do it in instant messenger if you're afraid to put your name out there. I just
yeah.
want to hear. I like to hear what people think.
Yeah, well, look at here's the gist of what I get. Uh, it boils down to morale, okay, and the morale in the city with city employees. Now, DPW, I'm hearing it all the time. These guys work in fear, okay. The same thing the with the fire department, okay. A lot of anxiety in the fire department because they're calling the mayor a bully. It's his way or the highway. Okay, so it's morale, even in City Hall. When I get messages from people where looking for information here and there, they say, "Look, you know, I'll just give you what I'm looking for. I'm just a peon here, just trying to get through the day." Okay, and this is what I see all the time. And look at a lot of information comes my way from people who are whistleblowers, and I promise them I won't release their names or who they are, so they can send stuff to us, and I guarantee that it will not get out who they are.
Yeah, and if
Okay,
you want to
it's
come
not going
on
to
the
happen.
show because you're not fearful of this guy because you have no
Yeah,
reason to be,
yeah,
let us know. Send a message. Come on, let's talk about it. I know Ed Kenner said he'd come on. Love to hear his idea
yeah,
for being the mayor of the city. Even if he just wants to share why he wants to be mayor of the city. What
yeah,
does he see? How does he see the city? He's been a
yeah,
good guy. He's been a loyal guy, right? He was
yeah,
loyal
yeah,
to Keeler. Keeler
yeah,
appointed him to the I think to the charter commission and made him a commissioner of deeds and
yeah.
So this guy was on the inside, and he's looking out, saying, "Man, I'm on the inside, and this is how bad the city's become." So I'd love to hear what he has to say. Love
Well,
to
yeah,
ask anybody who's running for council, Tommy Fife or Mr. Dion or any of them, come on the show. Look, we're
yeah,
whether you like the show or you don't like the show or you're afraid to say you like it. There's 10,000 people watching it. And
yeah,
a lot
and
of them are from Cohoes. The majority are from Cohoes. They got to. It's a
r-
great platform for you to say why you should be in office and the next guy should be out.
yeah,
Sometimes it's hard to make that determination because you can't reach everybody. But there's a lot of people watching this show, and
yeah,
look at our job, Timmy. Right? We said this from day one. Our job is not to beat anybody up and take personal positions.
yeah,
I have no personal position about anybody we talk to. I look at the
right,
city from the standpoint of a resident that lives here and how I see it. Period.
yeah,
Right?
yeah,
Again, I think most of these people are decent people.
yeah.
But what, if they're not doing a good job, I'll call them out. Now,
It's no
that's the way
different
it
than
goes.
being in school or a student. It's or something that you're trying to do. It's constructive criticism, and sometimes that's what's needed. You
Yeah,
know,
tough love.
Ed Kinner is a really good guy, but with Keeler putting him on a charity committee, what I refer to those things, these things are cookies. Give them a cookie here, give them a cookie here to
Of
keep them off
course,
my back. Okay, cookies. So they have to understand that when they're getting these little tidbits or scraps, okay, they're just cookies. All right.
they are. But here's what I find interesting though
Yeah.
in Ed Kinner, right?
Yeah.
I think he's got an uphill battle just because
He
he's
does.
not well known, and it's
Yeah.
hard to beat the Democratic machine. Believe me, I am the
It
only
is.
one ever to do it. I won
Yeah.
as an independent, first
Yeah.
guy ever, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And they
Um,
didn't like it.
and they didn't like it.
No.
Um, but it's hard to beat the machine. But what
Yeah.
interests me about Ed is that he was on the inside. And usually when you're on the inside, you just kind of go with the flow.
Yeah.
But because he loves the city so much, and the guy does love the city, he does a
Yeah. He
lot of
does.
things that people don't know about. He's out
Oh
there
yeah.
picking up garbage. He's a good kid.
He's
But
shoveling
he
snow
jumped
for
from the
people.
inside to
Yeah.
the outside. And what made
Yeah.
him do that? I think it's
Good
because
question.
he's seen the terrible things happening and the city
On the inside.
spiraling out of control, going
Yep.
downhill. And he
Yep.
said, I don't care if I'm an insider. I got to get out of here. And I don't know if I can win, but I can't let you just run for free. You don't deserve that.
Can't
And
run the
so
city into the ground either.
and Keeler, I wish he'd come on, Mr. Keeler, Mayor. If you want to come on the show, you'll be treated with the same respect and dignity as everybody else. Nobody's gonna, be disrespectful to you. We'll ask you some questions and talk to you about some stuff. There's my phone, Tim. You gotta let me just shut this off and go from there. But he's more than willing. Tommy Dion, Tom Fife, all of you. I'm going to reach out to you via email, me or Timmy, invite you on the show and see if you want to come on. But our goal here is to just bring you the good, bad, and the ugly. There's a lot of good things going on. There's some bad things. There's some ugly things. Looks like Timmy, the car wash, coming along pretty good.
Yeah, yeah. It's they got the doors on here. I think they're getting ready to light it on up. They're probably going to be putting signs up everywhere. But it was nice to see the doors put on. The roof's all done. They've got these. I don't know what you call those things on the top, but they'll light them up. They'll look really good. It's very similar, but I think it's this one here is bigger than the one that I saw up in Clifton Park.
So
But
that's a great thing that the city's got to see
yeah,
that new car wash. I'll tell you, I think that there's
my guess is it'll be open maybe by April, May.
yeah, and then I'm being told again that now somebody has, and I don't know for a fact. I don't know the person. I don't know. There's a lot of rumors going around, but it looks like somebody's going to come in and take up that opportunity to take over Smith's. Right?
Really, I didn't.
One,
I
I
didn't hear
heard,
that.
I did. It looks like one free year's rent, and a professional website and design to
Yep.
promote the business. I hear that the person who's coming does have money. It makes sense, right? If you
Yeah.
have money
Yeah.
and you're going to be able to run the business for a year, you'll know within the first year if you're not paying no rent whether you're going to stay because the city has the capability of bringing people to your business.
Yeah.
I pray that it happens. I'm not so optimistic. I think the city's going the opposite way. I'm hearing other businesses may pack up and
Yeah.
leave because Ransom Street it went from the utopia down to the
Yeah. It's
to
pretty
just a
dead now.
yeah, to a pretty dead street. I was out a couple Fridays ago,
Yeah.
stopped in a couple establishments, 3 people, 2 people, 4 people,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
if I'd be remiss not to tell you that I ran into somebody that had a nice "Truth, Lies, and Political Bullshit" T-shirt on,
Yeah.
and A lot of people shared their discouragement with how bad the city has come. But
Yeah.
I'll pray to God that Smiths can spark it with a new owner. If he can't make it after the first year with free rent, I don't think he'll be here. But let's
Yeah.
give him a lot of support. If you're from the community, go down, support them, help these people. Can't make these businesses stay. Politics don't make them stay, right? The city
Yeah.
can do a lot, but the businesses need the people. So get out there, support your local business. I think that
Yeah.
would be a great thing. So a new car wash coming, and a new bar restaurant at Smith's I hear is coming, and Tommy Durant now has opened up down at the golf course. He's got a new restaurant in the golf course.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
He's a fantastic young man. Signal 30 up at the top of the hill is
Yep.
just a great place to go for ice cream, and his barbecue is
Yep.
out of this world. Now he's got the business in the down at the golf course, Van Skyke Golf Course. So I pray for Tommy. He's a great fireman. He's got a
Yep.
great family. Hope they
Yep.
succeed. So a couple more
Yeah.
good things happening. But it's the good people of the city making them happen. I wish the government would be more engaged in trying to support these businesses and make them grow and bring people to the city. But hey, we'll see, right? Maybe,
Yeah.
maybe it will happen. Maybe it won't.
Yep. Yep. We'll see. Yep. Hey,
Anything
look at
else going on,
I
Tim?
got well. I got one thing there. I've got a very prominent constituent or a former constituent of you, Anna Dingley. She's saying
Anna
that she
Dingley.
does. Anna, good old Anna. She's up there in Fort Dingley, I call it. Okay.
Yeah.
She's saying you got to tell that Sean Morse he's swearing too much.
Well, listen. You tell Miss Dingley that I love her very much, and I'm going to have to get a mute button for her because sometimes I get just excited, and that's the words that come out of my mouth, right?
Right.
But
Right. Maybe
uh,
I'll get her. Maybe I'll have my brother get her a mute button. He needs the points right
I
now.
imagine your brother could work her up enough where she swears herself.
That's
I will do
probably
my
true.
best because Miss Dingley said so. I promise,
Yeah.
Miss Dingley, I'll do my best not to swear on this podcast.
Okie doke. Hey, anything else until the next time?
Hey, till the next time, Truth, Lies, and Political Bullshit continues to thrive. So come out and watch my podcast. Go watch Timmy's podcast, The Fifth Ward. Please send us some input. I'd love to hear it.
Yep, I'm looking to try to get Tom Fife to come on board, and as well as Ed Kenner. And then look at down in the second ward, the ward maps are a mess. People don't know whether they can run or can't run. They're going to have to sort that out real quick. But look at we cannot have Don Russell run unopposed. So somebody's got to step up down there in the second ward.
Well, petitions are already out because they're out knocking
Yeah,
on doors already.
yeah,
Listen, I wish every candidate good luck. I
yep,
wish the city the best. I hope that we can thrive once again.
yep,
I do think we need change if that's going to happen. I really think we need change at the top. I think it's
yep,
going to, however, be a tough lift. But maybe if you have a strong council that's not just raising their hand every time this guy says raise your hand, and they're thinkers and shakers and
yep,
movers, they can provide some good information and some good
yep,
ideas. So until then,
yep,
Timmy, it was good
yep,
to see you. Good to
yep.
see
Okie
everybody
doke.
out there. And from Cohoes to Good, Bad, and Ugly, we'll see you
And
soon. See
from
you
the
next
Fifth
week.
Ward, take care.
See you next week.